From her most recent release, Belle Homage, that is Philadelphia's enduring diva, Patti LaBelle, along with Kim, with a remake of the classic Moody's Mood, sending that out for everybody who last night was at the the Academy of Music, seeing Miss Patti live in her hometown.
Was she passing out the
I
Patti
wasn't
pies?
There. I was at least the Arden.
Pie. Are people still talking about the pies? Is that like?
Yeah, well, people are still eating the pies.
Okay.
They are absolutely, whether they are purchasing them from the giant retailer who sells them or making them, because the recipe was in her dessert cookbook.
Okay.
That she is now selling. But yes, Patti pies are still a thing.
Well, see, that I appreciate about Patti LaBelle, because that's genius. She's giving you the option. You can go to Walmart or wherever the superstore is and get it for $2.99. Or, she gives you can teach a person to fish. We can give them fishing rods. You can pay $20 for a book and make all the food that she makes. So.
Indeed. And watch her cooking channel show also, which I love.
Right.
Because she's got such a huge heart and huge personality, and being able to invite people into a kitchen and cook food with love, and then she talks about how much she admires their artistry. They talk about, songs of hers or moments of hers on stage or on film, that have inspired them. It's fun.
Yeah, I have nothing.
It's like Holiday if Miss Patti was your aunt.
Okay.
And being able to be in on those kinds of conversations.
Well, you didn't introduce me, but so if people know who I is. So
yes, Mike Dennis in studio for this week's edition of Reelblack Radio.
What you can't see, I'm growing my beard in a little bit now. It's in training wheel stage now. Eventually, maybe I'll get to the big Sunni. You gonna go full Philly? I don't know if I can. I've never gotten it that far. I've gotten scared. The bump fighters and all that stuff just don't work. I got a lot of what is it like? There must be a word like curly hues. It's sort of looks like corn chips on my face, or Cheetos or whatever the stuff is. It curls up so much I can't get it straight and groomed. I don't want to put any texturizer in it.
No. Do you brush?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the barber. That's the first thing he says. You got to train.
You got to train it.
You got to train your
I was going to say, now I have really sensitive skin, so that whole full out Philly beard thing does not work for Steph. I think it looks lovely, but it does not work. Like I get, kissing dudes that have beards like that.
Okay.
I get welts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Yeah, it's tough, but it's coming in so much grayer than the last time I tried. It's like
you starting to feel some kind of way about it now?
I don't feel any kind of way about it, quite frankly, because I had to take stock of it. Like Cedric the Entertainer, he's on that new Tracy Morgan show, and he's letting it grow in gray, and our friend Charlie Mack, he's letting it grow in gray. So and then I walk down to the corner and I'm old head, so. I mean, I'm the only thought that came when I saw how gray this hair's coming in is one, how much time I spent in my 30s, like actually plucking gray hair.
Did you really?
Easily, it was an addiction, like hours and hours, just like because it'd be like
vanity.
One or two. Well, it'd be one or two. You just like it's just like the same thing if you were gardening your lawn or whatever. You just pull that. Oh, that doesn't belong there. But now it's like I don't know if it's an infestation or what. But
it's just the natural course of things.
But but every time each gray hair represents something in your life.
Scotch Porter.
Okay, what's that?
It is a product line.
Okay.
So if you are committing for now to growing it in, they have excellent products to help soften and train and all the other good things. And they have fine models. Ladies, if you are into beards and grooming and seeing beautiful men of all hues, primarily black, but of all hues, who are growing their beards out, then I encourage you to at least follow their Instagram, Scotch Porter. Right. Exactly how it sounds. It's a line of products and beautiful bearded men.
Well, I picked the wrong business to get into. The endless hustle is clearly hair. Like there's no way you can lose.
Of course it is.
I mean,
if it wasn't a money maker and a hustle, the Asian folks would not have taken over beauty supply stores in our hood all across the country.
Well, cultural appropriation.
No, I'm just saying that it's where the money is.
It's money. Okay.
It's where the money is.
Okay. Well,
so now that you are in the land of the trying to be bearded folks.
Well, officially an old head, I suppose. So. So,
but speaking of officially Oldhead, you and I last Friday evening had the distinct pleasure of getting a chance to spend some quality time in front of and behind the camera with the legendary Philadelphian producer, composer, philanthropist, political activist, James Mtume.
Yes.
And it was fun.
Yeah, well, he's a great guy. I mean, I see the videos. We weren't on the air last Friday, but we ended up hanging out anyway, which is weird. But it was a good time. And I see the video's been cut now, so it'll be on WRD's.
On the Word Radio YouTube channel, so you are encouraged to check that out. I don't want to spoil too much of the conversation because I really do think you need to hear it from him in his own words. But he was in town commemorating the 35th anniversary of the release of Juicy Fruit.
Now I'm officially, that dates me.
Well, I mean, in a lot of different ways. We talked about New York Undercover. And him doing the composing for that, the film Native Son. So there's a lot for people who do not know the breadth of James Mtume's catalog and what he's contributed to the world culturally. We, talked about that with some joy about his work, his work with Miles Davis, and he's promised us an exclusive. So I will cheat that so that you all know to look for that. We're going to schedule some time to sit down with him and have an in-depth conversation about the years that he played with Miles Davis and the lessons learned in that space.
Yeah, I mean, that was part of a great week for me. Like I'm going back into my writing. Part of the reason I'm growing the beard out is just I said I'm not going to cut it until I get the script finished. So
okay,
I've been tossing around ideas for scripts and then just looking at the marketplace, it's like, it's one thing to write for fun or say, hey, just like really tap into your imagination. Wouldn't it be great? But then you run into people, the work never gets made because it requires too much of a budget. So, shout out to Tyler Perry. He has the #2 movie in the country.
Acrimony.
Yeah. $17 million. And Taraji P. Henson.
$17 million was #2?
That was Ready Player One. Steven Spielberg is #1 right now. So that's super blockbuster. That movie cost hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
So, in terms of profit margin, by far, Tyler Perry is the smartest person in the room. He's stacking chips up left and right.
Yeah.
And, so we're, and that ties into the M2Me thing, which I hope people look at. But at the same time, I'm just looking at the landscape of the marketplace, and clearly, not to take anything away from television. Television right now is creating multitudes of opportunities for all types of creatives.
Right.
But within the filmmaking space, even when Steven Spielberg was on his promotional tour in Europe for Ready Player One, he's saying, he was saying that, Netflix is television, it's not film. And there should be a distinction because what the trend is that a lot of the lower budget, riskier films, Hollywood just stopped making 20 years ago.
Right.
Like years, I think like Steel Magnolias, you'll never see that made as in the theatrical space anymore, like a lower budgeted ensemble film that's done in a middle price range. Now they're such inveterate gamblers in Hollywood that they're either going to spend all the money or they're going to take what you did for no money and market the crap out of it. So, I think it's great that we have this representation, but I just feel like the prices are getting lower and lower for the product. And so the advice I have for Tyler Perry is, now you got all this money, buy up some rights to some books, some source material, and even if you feel the urge to write one, Color Girls, I guess, was source material, but that wasn't something that he purchased himself.
You know better than to mention that atrocity around me.
Well, I mean, I'm saying, okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he shouldn't try that, but hire some writers, and give them credit, and buy some books and stories that are pre-existing, because saying that you shot a movie in 8 days should not be the selling point to Hollywood. Right.
And especially when you own your own soundstage, you really have the opportunity to create high quality visual work. And so the source material matters at that point, because you can take the time in your space to make it beautiful and relevant.
Right. And he's at a Ray Charles phase. I don't know if you study Ray Charles. Now this guy, he basically created Atlantic Records. Like this gentleman, Ray Charles, the first 5 years of his career, he was reinterpreting gospel songs and putting them out as his own, writing lyrics, conducting the band, and everything. When he made his deal with ABC, he laid off on that. The majority of his post-Atlantic catalog is interpretations, and his greatness increased. You know, his bigger sellers were I Can't Stop Loving You and things like that. So I think there's a certain period of time where we have to dispel this myth of writer-director, and if we're talking about, you know, building a catalog or creating intergenerational wealth, it just can't all be on one figurehead. I remember, you know, like you can't treat show business like you're running a candy store. You know, when the candy store closes, when the owner of the candy store closes, they shut it down, or, you know, there's a fire at the candy store and it doesn't reopen. You know, you know, we should be skyscraper building at this point. If there are enough people that are identified that they want to see this stuff. You know, 17 million is nothing to joke at. I'll take 17 million right now.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, and the idea that there are projects that were optioned but didn't see the light of day because there was not enough, you know, it was before the heyday of crowdfunding where people got these things done. And, you know, really worthwhile projects that got caught up in the system that were never produced. Because one of the things that I think about, and I think about the timeliness of it, if there was ever really a commitment to make it, is Halle Berry optioned Angela Nissel's book Mixed. And so we're talking about a Philadelphia story, A. We are talking about a time when the conversation around people of mixed heritage is, you know, kind of front and foremost in this. So this would have been an ideal time in order to make this film, but Halle Berry bought the option to it and sat on it for, because I don't even remember, I want to say Angela released that book in 2000.
Right.
So here we are, 2018. Well, you know what I mean? And Halle Berry would have a vested interest in telling that story because it's a story that in some ways parallels her own. But it, you know, these things, they come up and we never see them.
Well, there's three thoughts on that. One, it's who controls the rights. You know, there are a lot of movies and story ideas that are optioned without, just to take it off the marketplace, you know, not with no intention of ever getting it made. You know, also there's development hell, as they call it. You know, so there are a lot of ideas that just don't get past a certain phase of financing. Now that could be directly attributable to the number of gatekeepers. You really have to, when you go in those executive meetings, you have to have people in your corner that really not only believe in the idea, but believe in the team that's going to make it. And I think what I'm seeing with Netflix, like with On My Block and things like that, you know, there's a stratification about who gets the big money and who gets the small money, but they seem very open to a global audience in terms of the type of work that's being produced specifically for that brand. And obviously within the cable sphere, each channel is developing its own opportunity. So I'm not necessarily being critical of anything that television is doing. I'm just saying within the film space, you know, it is glacial and it is political, you know. So now we're finally seeing Napoli Ever After, which was a book 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Lyric Bent, who's the star of Acrimony, that's his next project. So, so things are coming back around.
And hopefully maybe Danny Glover will get another shot at his Toussaint Louverture piece that he was never able to get the funding for in order to make happen. But, you know, like you said, gatekeepers, stories of historical or cultural significance, that we are at sort of the critical mass point of people proving their star power in order to have a particular interaction with audiences and contribute to the canon.
I suppose. I mean, you know, it's still like whose water tastes better, is sweeter, is colder, you know. So when you have the people with money determining who your A-list stars are, and we're 20 years in on this, and you still only have one or two black creative, you know, talents in front of the camera that can actually have the power to get a movie made. Then whereas, you know, you have a bunch of C and D list white actors, who haven't had a hit in years, they can use their face on a poster in Europe and get half the money up. I think there's a disparity. So, that's a big question mark for me. All power to the people and folks are making it. It's a big fight, and also I see Hate U Give is being turned into a film, and they actually had to recast because they found out one of the stars of the film had a little scandal about being a little racist. So that was news this week. But I mean, books do get turned into movies, and this is a discussion we'll have further on in the year. We're going to have more people involved in executive stuff calling in and being part of the show because it's something that interests me. But it's also, when you involve the writer, a lot of movies get made with dead writers because when you got to deal with living people and their representation, they either take a hands-off approach, like, hey, you gave me the check, you go ahead and do it, or they want a nickel and dime. And so I know Lionsgate has bought up a bunch of books. So I think we're going to see more. But why we complain so much, I think, is something the M2Me interview will address and really start, sparking atoms. I mean, as long as it's not your building. So ownership, do you own the house or do you rent the house? Right. Basically is what it boils down to. So again, if I'm preaching, it's just we're in a very opportune time where you can't hide the money. You can't hide the money, but I'm happy for all the deals that are being announced every single day. Jordan Peele announced another deal to do a documentary about the Lorraine Bobbitt yesterday. A lot of stuff gets announced. That's super exciting, but what would super excite me is if there's a promotion in the gatekeeper room, the boardroom, the executives,
and not just ceremonial, adding people to the roles of the Academy,
or even Hollywood, a commitment. The way Fox Searchlight announced. I know we have a break. Fox Searchlight, they're being sold. Fox is being sold, but they made an announcement that Guillermo del Toro has got a 5-year deal. To make whatever he wants through Fox Searchlight. Yeah. It has to be at a certain budget, obviously. But where is the studio announcement? We're going to make a commitment to a certain number of black films in production.
Barry Jenkins. I mean, I was going to say if for Guillermo del Toro it was The Shape of Water, and his win, then Barry Jenkins has a new project in development, but not necessarily a 5-picture deal. Well, do whatever you want to do.
You get the first look. What I'm saying is not to spoil anything. Like if in the early '70s there were black music departments, where is the commitment beyond what Code Black? Commitment with Lionsgate is to just say, hey, we're gonna commit ourselves to a slate of development for black projects that where people don't have to put their houses up just to tell a story,
And we're going to pause there. That is a significant conversation that we want to come back to. This is Reelblack Radio here on Word Radio, part of the TGIF edition of The Source, and we'll continue after this. From a new album titled Into the Blue that is guitarist Tim Bowman along with vocals from Stokely, formerly of the group Mint Condition, with a new single called All I Need Is Love. Stokely is one of those dudes that can sing the ABCs to me and I'll be fine. But that one, that's got some bounce. If you're looking for a little something that'll get you through heavy traffic or on a road trip and what have you, then that one comes highly recommended. And Stokely has really been looking to reestablish himself as a solo artist and has been doing a lot of collaborations with various instrumentalists and other folks that are just brilliant. And it's great to watch someone evolve. It's hard to keep bands together these days, Mike D.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm involved with Kindred Presents. Yeah. And we should get them in here sometime to talk about because they do a weekly talk show where they talk to artists like Stokely and just about the journey. And I guess if we're continuing the thought process on dispelling myths, don't the writer director myth we need to eliminate. Yeah, and it's very interesting. how black folks got in was this whole film school generation, the second wave of the film school generation. Right. So the whole, if you want to go through the lineage of it, was the French created this idea of auteur theory, and Americans jumped on it through film schools, and they said, well, the author of the film is the director, and then the director got all the hype, and at the early 70s you had the birth of like a Steven Spielberg and a George Lucas and a Francis Ford Coppola, and they were all given basically free reign in Hollywood to just make whatever they wanted because they could speak to the youth. Mm-hmm. By the end of the 70s, they were all coked out and they were just making crazy movies like Howard the Duck and 1941 and One from the Heart, all this stuff, Pennies from Heaven, all this kind of stuff where they're just completely devoid of ideas, and then the corporations came in and said, look, we can just make a poster and we know how we're going to sell. They basically lifted a page from Roger Corman and basically said, like, look, we people look at the poster and decide what to go see. And then that's how the high concept movies came in, which are also Spielberg is representative of with Jaws.
Yes.
And E.T.
Yeah.
The Hollywood blockbuster came in. So, but there's always this balance between art and commerce, but it doesn't really exist anymore in the cinema space. So when black folks got in, it was like Spike Lee and Robert Townsend. There's all these for every Robert Townsend who financed a movie entirely on credit cards, there are like 50,000 black filmmakers who are still trying to pay off those cards. Right. Completely dead, never got less than a shoestring off of their movies. So, and for every Robert Rodriguez who shot every movie himself and sold blood to make a movie and got it in theaters, there's like 50,000 people that got hepatitis C. While they were doing their experimental.
But Mike's not cynical.
I'm just keeping it real. My point is that it's a collaborative art. It's a collaborative mission. But what the media tends to do is say, hey, it's you're the star, you're the number one. And what happens when you come from a culture where we reflect success based on exterior, we don't look at the interior. Mm-hmm. So what's interesting now is that Spike Lee, when he was at Sundance, his whole thing is like, look, the biggest myth you can tell a young kid is the myth of overnight succse.
Yeah.
Right.
No such thing.
No such thing. And he was saying, like, look, even before we shot She's Gotta Have It, Ernest Dickerson and I were Morehouse grads. We spent 4 years in school. We did theater. We did everything. Monty Ross, one of his latest Instagrams, he's like, look, we strategize. How can we make a black art film, independent black film that has some commercial viability? Mm-hmm. And they came up with She's Gotta Have It. And that still was an easy journey. Right. It's still a story that people need to learn. The books that Spike Lee wrote in the earliest days are fantastic for that. But, as we get to this next level of the struggle, it's really like, and we always talk about the crab in the barrel mentality. It's like, let's not look at success as being an exterior, but something that's interior.
And so, kind of piggybacking off of that idea, I think people need to appreciate Donald Glover being at a space, because I know that season 3 is part of what you're going to talk about.
Okay. Season 2, actually, Robin's season, but yeah. Okay,
but the idea of Donald Glover's rise and sort of expansion of his creative voice has also involved some contraction based on the exterior versus the interior. So we look at the success and the awards that he won because of ATL. We think about the recognition that he got because of the Childish Gambino album. So creatively, he's in a great space. Broadway, Lion King, Star Wars movie, young Lando Calrissian. There are things that are happening in his world that are giving him more say and a deeper consciousness about how he wants to continue to assert himself and present himself in this space. And that called for him saying, enough with Deadpool.
Okay.
Because he didn't like the way the story was being crafted. He didn't like the role.
Right. So they put on him as him being difficult.
Yes.
And when they pulled the plug. Well.
And I mean, and again, this is not the first time we hear things like this, right? People have said this about Mariah, and Mariah has her stuff. Dave Chappelle has his stuff, but they also reached a point where they were like, too many of these decisions are happening outside of me.
Right.
And if I need to rest if I need to reconceptualize how I want to interact with this industry, it is my right, doggone it. Mm-hmm. The whole reason why I have this whole team of people around me is because I've been successful at this, and I need to steer my own ship. And you've got to be able to understand that and support that in its most basic sense, and then get to the point where you're talking about where people need to make more definitive decisions that impact those who are coming up around them and under them.
That's my belief, but I know how capitalism works. So I'm just being the cautionary. right. While we're on Frank's place, I'm just saying, hey, look, you can't tell people how to spend their money or what to do with their money. But, I'm just saying the pattern is money infects your brain. And a lot of people put themselves in a position where they overextend and they're doing things for the wrong reasons. Now, I respect
Kevin
Donald
Hart.
Glover. Well, stop it. Night School's going to win an Oscar. 5 Oscars for Night School.
Listen, I think Kevin is incredibly talented. I also think that his personal life is, it hasn't completely imploded, but he has had some difficulties because it's hard to manage the fame and the money and the access and still try and craft your craft.
Okay, well, being devil's
being
devil's advocate, I would say that in the 70s, there were a lot worse things going on than what Kevin Hart's been accused of or been caught doing, so to speak, on camera. Like, if there were cameras in the 70s, forget about it. And social media in the 70s, forget about it.
Well, that's why Quincy's interview made such a stir. People were like, oh my God, I can't believe he said that. And he's like, I'm 80-something. Do you know how much I've seen?
But I've come to respect Kevin Hart. I mean, I think the rap on Kevin for me is just like his ambition sometimes exceeds his talent level. And I'm looking forward to this new movie, Untouchables. Even though the original film I had a problem with is a magical Negro film, he is making an effort to stretch. And I think a lot of times, and I give with this new Night School trailer, I give Will Packer a lot of credit because he's one of the few people that has enough of a pipeline where he can actually develop talent into stardom. And he's done that with Kevin, and now I see Tiffany Haddish is next in line with that, and she's taking full advantage. And the way media demands so much of talent.
Yes.
The true power now, there's a movie, Rapture, that's on Netflix, and Nas is saying, like, freedom is power. Like your freedom is your real power. So it's a piece. It's Nas, T.I., and who's the third person? It's like a 7-part series about each hour, like investigating a different rap person, a producer, performer, so on. So that's in the trailer, and your ability to say no in any situation is your ultimate power. So I respect Donald Glover for that, and I see that Kevin Hart is saying no a lot more, but his ambition is like, I want to be a mogul. I feel like I have the opportunities in front of me to be an Oprah, to be a Tyler Perry, and all I'm saying is, like, don't make yourself the main figurehead of your brand, because the minute it's not even death anymore. It's just the minute you're discredited, your whole thing falls like a house of cards.
I was going to say, and,
so infrastructure.
Oprah took she had 25 years in people's homes 5 days a week. In order to really be the figurehead, in order for it to be, own.
Oh, well, she's super protective of her image, though, too.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. That it again,
you're saying
no such thing as overnight success.
This quick rise,
Yes, with Kevin Hart. But we have to get to a break in a few, and I know you had some.
Phaheme, filmmaker Phaheme is going to be.
But didn't you want to talk about some more?
Real
previews.
Quick. Our cultural appropriation. They're remaking Superfly.
Yes.
And I'm going to be like Monique. Please, I encourage everybody to boycott Superfly. This is not my Superfly. This is Future and Little X, and God bless them if that's their vision of what if they were going to reimagine what that was about. But I think when you, and too often when you sample things, you lose sight of what the core ingredient is. Like James Brown got sampled a lot, but the beat was sampled and reappropriated, but how many people were listening to the lyrics? Jump back and kiss myself, open up the door, I get it myself. It's like you have to be a real head to really go back and listen to the originals. And a lot of that stuff was about empowerment, and some of the stuff that I'm seeing that's glamorizing the drug trade is victimization. So, but if that's the world, on the flip side of the coin is On My Block on Netflix. It speaks to, it's like a John Hughes movie set in South Central LA, and you can't avoid the drugs, you can't avoid the gangs, but these are kids, regular kids trying to navigate through high school. Yeah. And it's a brilliant concept, and it's extremely well executed. So, you have more than the vanilla and chocolate to choose from.
And for the people that are very pro Netflix and this whole idea of being able to sit on your couch and take some of these things in, there are some really great think pieces that have been written over the past couple of weeks. Netflix has 80 new series on deck for production in 2018, 2019. And so the scope of the sheer volume of material that they are releasing for people to go yes, no, like it, don't, and what producing that level of material for a viewing public means at this point.
It's just become Levittown for movies. It's a huge development.
It's huge.
There's a lot of people that want to escape the theaters. Huge. Let's build a suburban sprawl of movies that will just infest your mind for the next 20 years. Okay, look, Netflix, give me a deal. I'll shoot a pilot on my phone and we can talk.
But yeah, there's a lot to take in if you're interested in seeing what some of the creative or perhaps non-creative thought is around what the American public and global public
Show
wants.
me the money. I know we got a break. Fahrenheit 451 trailer looks dope. On Netflix, there's a new Whitney Houston movie that's coming out later this year. We're going to probably talk a lot more about that. And King in the Wilderness on HBO is really good. So
okay, yeah, I haven't seen that, but lots to take in. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back to the crowdfunding question, ladies and gentlemen. How folks are getting these projects done when they don't have the backing of an HBO or a Netflix or a major studio with our next guest. So hang tight. We'll be right back with the conclusion of this week's edition of Reelblack Radio here on Word Radio. From their self-titled debut album, that is the brothers of the Hypnotic Brass Ensemble with a tune called Balicky Bone. And, this whole concept of self-contained and directing your path and being guided by, the elder creative voice that says, don't sell yourself short, figure out a way to navigate this industry in a way that not just benefits you and you can have a cultural statement, but that you maintain some ownership of your sound and your look and all of the things that matter. Their story to me is just a really complex and beautiful thing. It's captured in a documentary called The Brothers Hypnotic. So hopefully if you have not had a chance to see it yet, I don't know if it's still on demand on pbs.org.
It kind of came and disappeared. It could be. Google it. Google it. Google me.
But it definitely it fits into the conversation.
Absolutely. I'm going to kiss myself. Nobody else is showing me love.
But this is Steph and Mike.
Everybody should just kiss themselves right now. Put your hand on the radio. Before we welcome our next guest, which we're proud of, I should mention that Zoe Kravitz has a new movie in theaters today called Gemini. So looks like one of those doppelganger movies. She's a personal assistant and there's some homicide and stuff. So
okay.
If you like Zoe on a big screen, go see that. Also in limited theaters, Andrew Dosunmu has a movie, Where is Kira, which with Michelle Pfeiffer, which opens. It was at Sundance a year ago, not
with
this year.
Dangerous Minds, Michelle Pfeiffer.
It's no very few black folks in it. It's sort of a companion piece to Mother of George.
Okay.
It's also set in New York, very micro budget. Bradford Young shoots it, and it's about a woman who.
So at least you know it's going to be a beautiful film.
It's done extremely well. Yeah, Andrew's one of the premier artists. But so the premise is she's a caregiver for her mother. Her mother dies unexpectedly, so she has to basically dress up and disguise herself as her mother, her dead mother, to collect the checks that she needs to survive.
Wow.
And ultimately, she involves other people, and it becomes a house of cards. But it's a small story, very much like Mother of George, that you could say in like one sentence. But the way it's executed, it leaves you thinking for many times, because it's based on some real stuff.
Storytelling.
So, and this may be, I don't even know. This, my with us on the line is Phaheme, aka Phaheme the poet. Am I saying it right?
No, you're saying it right. It's Phaheme.
You schooled me. I was saying it Phaheme for a long time. Welcome. First time on the show. We met when you were at Black Star for your movie The Mighty Lions or Troop 491, and you were saying that it's about to come out. Is it out? Where can people see that one, first off?
Well, unfortunately, right now it's not out like in wide distributions. We have signed a distribution deal. We're just kind of waiting to figure out like what's the release, when it's going to be released, and hopefully sometime this year it'll be coming out on a major way.
Okay, well,
I just don't know yet.
Well, can't stop, don't stop. I know you've been busy, and you've got a new one. And I can't even describe this one. It's called Stuck. And we can all help make sure that more people get to see Stuck. And please explain why.
Absolutely. So I definitely was not going to just sit and wait for my movie to be released. I had to create something else. And so Stuck was my return to filmmaking. Stuck is a romantic comedy. It's about two strangers. They hook up for a one-night stand, and they become physically stuck in the act of having sex. And then their only way to separate is that they must become vulnerable and get to know one another. Mm-hmm. And so it's a new twist on a romantic comedy. They've already had the most intimate act, and now they have to spend the rest of their time getting to know each other in order to separate.
Wow.
Okay. Well, I'm with it. Yeah. Now, is this based on personal experience?
No, absolutely not. It was. I was honestly just moving through Los Angeles, and I was at a party and had a friend share this idea with me, and it had just happened that another filmmaker friend had challenged me to get back out and make something. He was like, "Man, you haven't made anything since 2013. Can you make something now?" And I had this idea that another friend had gave me, and it was just like, all right, let me just see if I can execute this. Let me see if I can take this concept, write it, get a team together, produce it, and follow it up, finish it, and make it all happen. So it's been a labor of love, and just to see if I could get my creative juices flowing again.
I was gonna say, well, let's talk about that too, because the pressure, in the music industry is pretty well defined. It's like if you release a project and don't release something else within the next year and a half, 2 years, people are calling you a has-been. The cycle for what the expectations are in the filmmaking industry is something that people might not be completely familiar with. For you, where were you in that process before you were challenged by your friend to kind of get back, behind the camera and keep the product going?
Well, I was in the writing phase. So like as a filmmaker, it's really difficult to do anything unless you have money. Mm-hmm. And so making films costs a lot of money. Now, people are able to do them and make them for smaller amounts than they were in the past, but it still takes a lot of money, takes a lot of time, takes a lot of energy. So I was just focused on what I could do for free, which is writing and coming up with new scripts. Mm-hmm. But I feel like as a filmmaker, it's probably like people want to see you having something every 2 to 3 years. It's different if you're a content creator and you set yourself up as like a YouTube or Vimeo content creator. Mm-hmm. You may be expected to have something every week. People go to these YouTube channels and they expect new, fresh content every Wednesday. So if you're watching like Black and Sexy TV or the Issa Rae channel, they have way more pressure to put out content. Me, I'm not a content creator. I don't want to put that type of pressure on myself. It takes me a lot of time to write. It takes me a lot of time to come up with these themes and put thought into what I'm creating. And so I take my time. I don't ever really want to rush, but I do want to get to a place where I can be creating one film or project a year. But that's probably going to take some time until I can get the capital up to be able to generate that type of content.
Well, our listeners, our viewership is in the perfect position to help because, you're more than halfway to your goal on Indiegogo. If you go to Indiegogo and you type in Stuck short film, you'll find it. You'll see the trailer and everything. So what you're trying to get $5,000. What exactly is that going to be used for?
So we've already invested over $12,000 on this project for production and post-production. We're looking to raise $5,000 to help us as we do our festival and distribution run.
Gotcha.
As you know, submitting to festivals can get really expensive. We've already submitted to like 15 festivals already. Mm-hmm. And then we want to be able to go out and support the festivals in the proper way. So travel for talent and lodging for the festivals. It is also going to go towards marketing and promotional materials. It's also going to go towards creating the actual file that we'll have to present. Oftentimes they either want a Blu-ray or P file. All of that stuff is very expensive. And so it's just going to go towards us putting out this film and taking it across the country so that we can share it with as many people as possible. We're also going to try to put on a private screening in the city of Richmond, Virginia, and probably one in Los Angeles. We actually shot this film in Richmond, so just want to be able to go back to my hometown and showcase the film. So all of that stuff costs money, written theaters, promotions, and things of that nature. That $5,000 is going to go towards all of those things.
Well, I'm super duper excited. I mean, and obviously, you know, the bios here, Howard University alum, film and MFA in Florida University. This is legit. So, and it sounds like it's a lot of fun. You know, I'm definitely going to support. So we have a month left to do this. So, you know, if you can't do it this Friday, make sure you put some money in next Friday, because we want to keep planting the seeds. That's what that's the narrative. It's like, okay, we're seeing a great, and maybe you can speak to this before we go. We're at a sort of a critical mass, a tipping point in some ways where Hollywood is giving us some representation, but a lot of the people that are getting these opportunities now, they've been waiting at that door for 10, 15, 20 years. They've been developing their careers to have these opportunities, to get these huge budgets. And then how do we feed the next wave of people? I know you work with Tim Reed, and there's a level of investment in terms of your cast and crew. If you want to speak to it real quick.
Well, absolutely. We are in the middle of probably what most would consider like a black renaissance in the arts and film and television, movies, music. And so, yes, there are a lot of people in my, I guess, class where we're like up and coming, still just making, creating, and building our audience. So just you allowing me to come on your radio station and speak to your audience, doing this Kickstarter, traveling on film festivals. This is how we get to become the next Ava DuVernay's, the next Ryan Coogler's. This is the path that Ava DuVernay followed. I mean, pretty much I just kind of watched what she did with her first few films. And so, okay, you got to go to these festivals. You got to build your audience and have material ready, so when the industry does come looking for talent, they say, hey, who's this kid over here? He's been doing this stuff quietly. Maybe we can bring him on for one of our projects. And so I'm just kind of following the blueprints that a lot of the great filmmakers before us have kind of laid down. So following the Spike Lee path, just keep making high-quality content and understanding that one day somebody will be able to recognize that we put a lot of heart, a lot of energy, and a lot of talent into these projects.
Without question. But that person is the person listening now. You're asking for $5,000. You know, we have to invest in our own seeds. So, you know, can't wait for the show up at Burger King. So go to Indiegogo and type in Stuck short film. Thanks, Phaheme.
Thank you.
Can I say something real quick before I jump off?
Yeah, real quick.
Yes, we had two amazing actors, Javicia Leslie and Hari Williams. This film would not have been what it is without them. If you can, support us. We love to support. Anything you can give will be greatly appreciated.
Thank you so much, and much continued success to you.
Thank you for having me.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we got to go. Don't forget that next week we will not be on With the Source. We have a special live broadcast for Jackie Robinson Day that will be hosted by Keaton Nichols, and we want you to come out and celebrate that level of innovation and groundbreaking success in our sports world and how that ties over into Black history, American history, and our culture. We will be convened again on the 20th.
42 next week, and then we're back on the 20th. We got some guests lined up too. It's gonna be dope.
Indeed. And don't forget to go to the Word Radio YouTube channel to check out our interview with James Mtume. Until next time, Brother Shamari's coming up next. Until next time, you take good care.